We're back with Ambassador John Bolton, author of The Room Where It Happened. Ambassador, 4th of July is just around the corner. What do you believe the patriotic response to Donald Trump is?
Well, I don't think this is part of the problem with Donald Trump is that every question that confronts the American people is converted into, are you for Donald Trump or against Donald Trump? Now, that's the way Donald Trump looks at the world. He's either a winner or a loser.
How would you reframe it? How would you reframe that question?
I think the United States has got to break free from this mindset that you're either for Trump or against him. You're either positive or negative. There's a lot more at stake here. The United States faces a lot of challenges internationally. I think it goes without saying we face a lot of challenges domestically. And I want to see both for the country, and I'll say clearly for the Republican Party, to cut this albatross off from around our neck. That's why I'm not going to vote for him in November. I wish there were some way to get a conservative Republican on the ballot in November.
You talk in the book about Donald Trump talking to Xi Jinping about, as you described, concentration camps being built for the Uyghurs, and that Trump gave a thumbs up to it. You describe them as concentration camps, not me. Knowing that the Chinese are building it might be something the international community knew. Knowing that our president was giving a thumbs up, approving the detainment of people in concentration camps in China, why not tell us then? What is the moral imperative in your mind then for you?
Look, there's always a trade-off for officials in government, particularly senior officials, of how long you stay in to try to advise the president to move in the right direction as your conscience tells you, versus leaving to say what they're doing wrong. And I had a series of decisions. I try and lay them out in the book. I thought of resigning many times. I stayed for 17 months. You can say you stayed too long. Other people have criticized me for not staying long enough and staying in. There's a large alumni association of people who have left the Trump administration under one circumstance or another, and I don't criticize any of them. This is a hard decision to make. And until you've been in the shoes of somebody in that situation, it's easy for outsiders to say you made the wrong move. I've tried to lay out as much as I can in the book what my thinking was, and people will accept it or reject it, but I didn't decide to resign because of the Uyghurs at that point. I kept fighting on other issues.
If Donald Trump loses in November, how quickly will the GOP and conservatives say, well, he wasn't ever really a true conservative?
Very quickly, I hope. Look, this is one of the reasons I wrote the book. I do think after November, whether Trump wins or loses, the Republican Party has to have a significant conversation about what its future is. I hope it's with Trump and Trump's influences removed. We'll have to see how that goes, but that's what I intend to try and participate in.
Knowing what you know and knowing what you're telling the world with your book now, how do you feel about the conservatives who still support the president?
Look, I think there are a lot of reasons why they are. I go back again to 2016. I voted for him. I'm not going to try and hide that fact. I wish others had broken or were breaking with him now. It would certainly make my job a lot easier today. But we're going to have a reckoning after the election, as I say, whether Trump wins or loses at that point.
Is this a farewell tour for you? Because certainly you're not going to work for a Democratic administration, and you're burning a lot of bridges with this book. Is this your goodbye to public service in Washington, D.C.?
Well, it may be my goodbye to serving in the government, but I think particularly if the Democrats win for the next 4 years, but the bigger philosophical questions remain and need to be answered the right way. I didn't work for Barry Goldwater in 1964 or Ronald Reagan in 1980 or the two Bush administrations to end with the Republican Party being the Republican Party of Donald Trump. That's not the end I'm going to accept.
Well, sir, thank you so much for being here. The book, The Room Where It Happened, is available now. Ambassador John Bolton, everybody. We'll be right back. Thanks for being here, sir.